All right, everybody. So I'm back at it again here. Just wanted to do a follow-up to part one of this project. So I'm swapping out this EVBMW Damien Maguire logic board into a 2012 Prius inverter. So for this particular revision of the inverter, the logic board that came out was a smaller format than in the 2010-2011 inverter. So what you see here is that the Damien Maguire board is a bit wider for this 2012 revision. So what I ended up having to do, and I talked about this in the previous video, was I had to drill a pinhole and a screw hole into this PCB. So what I ended up doing was I have this copper strip here that needs to be connected to this screw hole here. I'm pretty sure that provides some sort of ground plane for the board. So I wanted to be sure to connect that. So what I ended up doing was I drilled my pinhole, and then I drilled the hole for the screw. And then I just took a piece of wire and soldered to this insert in the PCB, and then soldered it to this copper strip. So that's that. And I guess the other item of note here is that I wasn't able to get a screw hole into this board support here because this connector for MG2 is where the screw hole is. So what I ended up doing was just taking the wife sold hot glue gun, and then I'll put a little bit of hot glue under the board, and then just stick it down like so. And it's not much, but I think it's better than nothing, and it gives the board a little bit of support and stability on this corner. So that's how I handled the screw hole here. I guess the other thing that I did was over here on this side where the DC to DC converter jumper is, what I ended up doing was just using some 0.1 inch or 2.54 millimeter header strip and just putting two of those right here in this DC to DC converter switch. And then what I did was I just bought a jumper, or I bought a bunch of jumpers to make that, just to provide a little bit of flexibility. That way if I want to switch it off, all I got to do is pull that jumper out. But I did put a little drop of hot glue on there to keep the jumper from coming off, whenever I install a thing on a car. All right. So then what I'll do is just go ahead and put the screws into the card here. Do this like so. All right, So we got the board screwed down. Connect up this temperature sensor. Connect up this DC to DC inverter connector. Now we've got our 50-way. Right. Now, if you recall as well from the previous video, the format is like this in the original board. So we've got the MG1 connector here, and we've got the temperature connector here, and then the other current sensor for MG2 over here. So in Damien's design, you have the MG2 current sensor here, the temperature sensor over here, which is the opposite, so switched from the original board. But what I found was that was not a problem, because these two connectors are still able to reach. There's enough wire there for me. So what I'll do, actually first, there's this guy, which I'll drop right there. Place him like that. Now, before I get too carried away, let's see here. Put this around so anyone can see. But what I'll do is I'll take the temperature sensor, plug him in there, and then the current sensor for MG1, there, current sensor for MG2, there. Put that under there nice and neat. Okay. Spin it back around here. Now, do the bolts. Do these guys first. Next we do the bolts for the current sensor assembly. right. Tight, but not too tight. Just double check I've got everything connected up, and I do. Got the this plastic sheet in. So now what I'll do, take these guys away. All right, there we go. Let's see here. Just drop a couple of bolts in this top. All right, got the top on there. MG2, MG1. I got my 12 volt and ground for my board there. That's all situated. So now what I'll do is flip it over. Now I will be ready to work on the DC to DC converter resistor array. So I'll get the top open here and come back. All right, let's see if I can get the old heat and flip action caught on film here. Let's soldering iron hot. There it is. Just like Damien taught us. Get that a little later. Trusty flux here. Just using a little wire to spread some of this gel flux around. There we go. Let's see if that'll work. So now what I'll do is I'll use my trusty Tech Spray No Clean solder wick. See if I can get these pads cleaned up and get any residual solder off of these pads. Now I reached the point where I have to have my tweezers because I need to put my new 210K resistors onto the board. So I'm going to pause here and come back to it. Alright, so now what I've done is I've removed 629, 627, 625, 623, and I've replaced them with the 210 kilo ohm resistors. So these are the, let's see here if I can get a, yeah, so I've replaced them with these guys. And what I thought I would do is, since I've already replaced 623, 625, and 627, I thought I would just do a quick demo of what it's like to place one of these resistors. So let me give it a shot here and see if I can do it on camera. So there's one side. Get another spot of solder here. And what I'm doing is just touching the solder to the iron to get a little bit of solder on the iron, and then I'll come along and get this other side. Do that like so. All right, so now that's that side done. So what I'll do at this point is just flip the board over and I'll do the same process for 630, 628, 626, and 624. So I'll do those four, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. I won't bore you with doing that, but I'll come back whenever I'm done and show it here. All right, so I've gotten now 630, 628, 626, and 624 replaced, just using the same procedure that I was showing before. So just heat up one side of the resistor, flick it up whenever both sides get hot enough to melt, and you can flick the resistor away, and then what you'll do is just take a pair of tweezers and come in. Be sure you use plenty of flux, and also be sure to use the fine solder wire. I'm using a 0.015 inch Kester solder, so in case you're interested, this is the solder that I'm using. So that's what I did. So I got those guys replaced. Now I'll flip the board back up. And also note that down here I've gotten my 5 wires that I cut when I got overzealous with my putty knife trying to break the seal here. I got those reconnected, and I've gotten them all squared away. I had to solder these wires that I broke. Yeah, so that's all good. I'm just going to leave it the way that it is. I'm just going to try to clean up a little bit the flux from when I was doing this. Just do a little bit of cleanup there. I'm just using a little bit of electronic cleaner to clean the flux away. So now I've got the DC to DC converter resistor array updated. So now I'll just replace the 4 screws and be done on this side of the inverter. All right, be sure to plug this guy back in, like so. All right, pretty much good to go. Put the lid back on. Drop a few bolts in. Do this just to keep the lid on. All right, there you have it. Put this guy over. Pretty side up. All right, there is my Prius converter. Ready for the next stage, which will be, let's see, I need to get power onto this thing and make sure that the PWM signals are good. So then I'll connect MG1 and MG2 with a low voltage power supply and see if I can run this thing in volts hertz mode. So I'll try to do that for the next one. All right, see ya.